folks, recent update from President Joe Biden about the possibility of a future railroad worker union strike that we thought we had avoided. I want to see what he has to say here, so let's check this out.
This agreement is a big win for America and for both, in my view. I want to thank the lead negotiators from the labor movement, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and the Trainmen, International Association of Sheet Metal and Air and Rail and Transportation Workers Union, and the other labor unions engaged. And this is a win for tens of thousands of rail workers and for their dignity and the dignity of their work. It's a recognition of that. During these early, dark, uncertain days of the pandemic, they showed up so every American could keep going. They worked tirelessly through the pandemic to ensure that families and communities got the deliveries they needed during these difficult few years. And because of the labor agreement, those rail workers will get better pay, a 24% wage increase over the next 5 years, improved working conditions, peace of mind around their health care by capping the cost that workers will have to pay. And it's about the right to go to a doctor or stay healthy and make sure you're able to have the care you can afford. It's all part of this agreement. They earned and deserve these benefits. And this is a great deal for both sides, in my view. The agreement is also a victory for railway companies. And I want to thank the lead negotiators from the National Railway Labor Conference and our major rail companies. These companies also played a critical role in keeping America moving during the pandemic, and that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. With this agreement, railroad companies will be able to retain and recruit workers. They'll be able to continue to operate effectively as a vital piece of our economy. They're really the backbone of the economy. I have this visual image of rails being the backbone. I mean, literally, the backbone of the economy. So I thank the unions and the rail companies for negotiating in good faith. They've been up for 20 straight hours to that negotiation, and for sticking with it, especially over the last few days.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the threat of a railroad strike is back on. Or, with that being said, was it ever really off? There's new recent developments of news headlines reporting that a union railroad track maintenance workers have rejected a tentative agreement with the nation's freight carriers. Now, renewing the threat that there could be a strike that shuts down the vital link in the nation's already struggling supply chain. This is a little bit of an update, a little bit of a warning. I don't know if this is actually going to blow up to be something extremely huge or wide scaled, but it is definitely something that we should be paying attention to, as this could have a severe impact on the supply chain and the ability to make money, or the inability to make money. This is a big deal. Okay. This most recent release by CNN Business, I understand CNN, I get it. But the simple fact of the matter is President Biden appointed the Presidential Emergency Board, the PEB, that was supposed to work on solidifying negotiations between the railroad workers unions and the railroad companies. CSX, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, BNSF. And although just a few weeks ago, the deadline was approaching for which the time in which these union workers could go on strike, in the 11th hour, miraculously, a tentative deal had been achieved. But it seems though now that this may not necessarily be the case, as workers are, let me get to this, stating that renewing the threat that there could be a strike that shuts down the vital link in the nation's already struggling supply chain, as 57% are opposed to the tentative deal. Therefore, you would need a majority vote for this to pass, and they do not have that. The lack of paid sick time off was the most cited and specific concern of the membership. And it was especially evident during the pandemic that it was a major problem. You guys may recall some stories and reports that I brought to you of situations of some of these railroad workers who were unable to have the time off that they needed to take their kids to the doctor's appointments, to take their kids to the dentist, even some instances of some employees not even being able to attend funerals for loved ones who had passed because the railroad would not allow them the time off. This is a huge sticking point. And the railroads have so far not addressed it in any meaningful way, which is causing a slowdown for this group of individuals, this union in particular. And this could escalate throughout the others as the financial component, the revenues, which appear to be somewhat agreed upon, isn't quite what's most important, as the quality of life and improving the quality of life is becoming of a greater concern to so many. We saw it through the Great Resignation, where a ton of folks were quitting their jobs and moving on. Now, granted, this was at a time where unemployment was reaching its highest levels, and there was some extreme incentive to be on unemployment based on some of the additional funds that were provided through some of these government stimulus packages. But that sentiment is carrying through, especially now as the economy is continuously kind of on this seesaw where it's up and down, but people are really going to start deciding on whether or not they want to work to live or if they want to live to work. And if you understand what I mean by that, go ahead and drop a comment down below. If you don't understand what I mean by that, drop a comment down below and we can expand on that further in a future video. But ultimately, there is the possibility that there could be a risk of an immediate service disruption. And we don't need that right now. We've already got headlines hitting the news of big retailers like Walmart canceling orders, which ultimately, if they're canceling orders, then there's going to create some form of a backup and a log jam in the supply chain. Then if you add on top of that service disruptions, it's just going to compound the negative impacts that our supply chain is going to see and further cause disruptions to other components and other businesses and other industries that are going to be tied up with this mess. But as of right now, it's really just a toss-up, according to union sources. And these are from one of the big two unions, as far as what we can see moving forward from this in the next few days, couple weeks. Especially now, this is going to be very important as we move into the holiday season. Shopping season, retailers are going to be very, very adamant about getting their inventory, their supply to sell, to get these revenues up, perhaps maybe some profits. But also, this is a tough time where a lot of these businesses are afraid and possibly pulling back and retracting. The water is receding. But if anyone out there is working for the railroad unions, I know we had a few people chime in previously with some updates and some information about what was going on. Are we likely to see a strike? Is this enough of a sticking point to make people shut our supply chain down? Granted, remember, the railroad accounts for about 30% of the U.S. transportation of goods and materials and commodities. But we also have just announced that, AB 5 is in full effect in California, and Biden is backing that. And this is going to have an impact on trucking, transportation, while we're expected to see even higher cost of fuel. I don't know if this is actually part of the Great Reset, but, it's definitely not something that we really need in addition to the Great Reset. And this is going to have potentially a huge impact to people's income and their livelihood and their ability to provide for their families, especially if the strike were to occur. And then how long would it last? Then, would Congress step in and implement either providing the union workers with what they want or providing some form of temporary solution to keep the railroads running? Only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But I wanted to bring you guys this update so that you were aware of what's going on. We got a lot of things happening right now. We have the supply chain issues. We got the big retailers canceling orders. We've got food prices going up. We got rent prices going up with eviction notices hitting folks hard with almost an ultimatum. It's Here's your new high rent price and or you're evicted. Which one's it going to be? And to add something like this on top of it, which could ultimately affect people's income, is not good. While the banks are struggling and we're hearing reports from Credit Suisse or Credit Suisse that there's nothing to worry about. Clearly, when they tell you there's nothing to worry about, that means that there's plenty to worry about. And we've just got one mess on top of another mess on top of another mess. And folks, I want you guys to be paying attention. I want you to be aware of what's going on out there. I don't want you guys to get blindsided and caught off guard, especially with as rough as it is, and with jobs ultimately being more likely to be replaced by AI and technology and robots. And this is just going to further take us into 2023 as we roll into 2023 with crashing markets, stock market crashing, crypto market crashing, housing market crashing, automotive market crashing, the banks crashing, and high inflation, high interest rates, hyperinflation, possible recession, deep recession, and depression. Folks, pay attention, be wise, be aware, be educated, be smart, ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're a community. We're trying to help each other. Check out this video here. Also this playlist. Subscribe to the channel. You guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you on the next one. See ya.